Welcome to this deep dive. It's all about Janne Uusilehto.
A fascinating guy.
He's a leader in security and privacy engineering. We've got his LinkedIn profile, of course,
Right?
but also an interview from way back in 2007
Oh, wow.
and a presentation on mobile security,
Okay.
even a list of his patents.
Wow.
I have to say, when I first saw that he started his career in banking, I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
It's not the typical path to, becoming a cybersecurity leader.
It's not the usual path, no. But what's really interesting is that Jane was working with internet banking systems in the 90s,
Okay.
just as they were really starting to take off.
Yeah.
Back then, security wasn't as sophisticated as it is today, so he had a front row seat to all the challenges of, well, protecting sensitive data
Hmm.
in a really rapidly changing digital world. It's almost like you got a crash course in, building trust and security from the very beginning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess those early experiences really laid the groundwork for his later work in, mobile and cloud security. It's like those seemingly separate fields actually share a common thread.
Exactly. And that's something we see throughout his career, this ability to connect the dots between these different areas and to uh, apply his expertise in these new and innovative ways. In fact, he even helped to launch one of the first internet sales portals in Finland while he was at Nokia.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Talk about a pioneer.
So he was already at Nokia then.
He was. And this is really where his career takes shape. Over 16 years at Nokia, he built their product security program from the ground up.
Wow.
We're talking hardware security standards,
Mm.
a robust operating system architecture for their phones, which, by the way, was deployed on a massive scale,
Mm.
and even pioneering those secure Bluetooth card readers for mobile payments. This was before mobile payments were really a thing.
Right.
So he was ahead of the curve.
That's incredible. I use mobile payments all the time now. I never really stopped to think about the security behind it.
Right.
I guess that's the sign of a well-designed system, right? It just works seamlessly in the background.
Exactly. And that's something Jane really emphasizes in his work, building a foundation of trust and security that users can rely on without even having to think about it. He talks about bridging the gap between the technical complexity of security and the practical needs of users.
Mm.
He's really got a knack for making security accessible to everyone, not just the, tech experts.
That's so important, especially today when technology is just so integrated into our lives. So how did he go from, building secure mobile ecosystems at Nokia to working on cloud security and privacy at Microsoft and Google? It seems like a pretty big leap.
It is a big leap, but what's interesting is that there's this clear thread of continuity in his work.
Yeah.
He's always focused on building trust and security, whether it's in a mobile phone, a cloud platform, or a software application.
Mm.
And he's always been willing to adapt and learn new technologies as they've emerged.
Okay, so I'm starting to see a pattern here. He's got this deep understanding of security principles and a real knack for applying them in different contexts.
Exactly. And that adaptability is key in a field that's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
But it's not just about technical skills. What really stands out is his commitment to establishing industry-wide security standards.
Okay.
He understands that security is not something that one company can solve on its own.
Yeah.
We need to work together, share best practices, and create a more secure ecosystem for everyone.
So it's about raising the bar for the entire industry, not just for individual companies.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Can you give me an example of how he's done that?
Sure. Remember we mentioned the Trusted Computing Group, or TCG?
Yeah.
Well, he served as the chairman of the TCG Mobile Working Group. And he led the development of the first global standard for the Mobile Trusted Module, or MTM. Think of it as a secure chip inside your phone. That helps protect your data
Hmm.
and make sure that the software that's running on the device is legitimate. This standard is now incorporated into the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO
Hmm.
standards, which means it's been adopted on a global scale. That's a huge accomplishment.
Wow, that's incredible. It makes you realize how much work goes on behind the scenes to keep our devices and data secure.
It really does. And that's just one example. He's also been involved with Global Platform,
Yeah.
Safecode, ICASI, and Digital Europe, all working to promote security and privacy best practices across different sectors of the tech industry.
Hmm.
He really is a champion of collaboration and these industry-wide standards.
It's amazing how he manages to balance his technical expertise with this broader vision for improving security across the whole industry.
That's something you see again and again in his career. It's not just about the technology.
Hmm.
It's about the people, the collaboration. and the shared commitment to making a difference. And it's about constantly learning, adapting, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. For example, at Microsoft, he personally conducted over 600 Azure product-level privacy reviews in just 1 year.
Wow.
That's a testament to his dedication and thoroughness.
That's an incredible number, and it makes sense given his later role at Google, leading privacy for Google Cloud.
Uh-huh.
So it's not just security he's passionate about, it's privacy too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he approaches privacy with the same forward-thinking mindset. He champions what he calls a shift-left approach,
Okay.
which means moving from reacting to privacy problems to designing systems with privacy in mind right from the start.
That sounds like a much more proactive approach. Can you elaborate on what that looks like in practice?
Sure. Take his work redesigning the Google Workspace privacy program, for example. He realized that just trying to bolt on privacy as an afterthought wasn't enough.
Right.
He wanted to make privacy a fundamental part of the design process from the very beginning. So he worked with the engineering teams to give them the tools and the training they needed to build privacy into their products from day one.
Yeah.
It's about anticipating problems before they arise and designing systems that protect user data by default.
I can see how that would be a game changer in terms of building trust with users. It shows that privacy is a top priority, not just an afterthought. I'm curious, though, is that shift left approach always feasible?
Mhm.
Aren't there situations where it might be difficult to implement?
That's a great question. And it's something that even Jan acknowledges can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially with these rapidly evolving technologies, it can be difficult to anticipate all the potential privacy implications from the outset. And in some cases, legacy systems might not be easily adapted to a more privacy-centric design.
So it sounds like shifting left is an ideal to strive for, but it's not always a straightforward process. It requires careful planning, collaboration, and a willingness to adapt as new challenges emerge.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about finding that right balance between innovation and responsibility.
Mhm.
And that's something that Jane has consistently demonstrated throughout his career.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already, and it's clear that Jane's had an incredible impact on the world of security and privacy. But before we move on, I'm really curious to hear more about his work at Nokia. We touched on it earlier, but can we dive a little deeper into the specifics of what he accomplished there?
Oh, yeah.
After all, he spent 16 years building their security program, so there must be some fascinating stories to tell.
Absolutely. Nokia is where he really made his mark, and his work there had a lasting impact on the mobile industry. Let's start with his role in developing the 5 stages of product security maturity, which he outlined in his 2007 YouTube interview.
Hmm.
It's a fascinating framework that helps organizations assess where they stand in terms of their security practices and what steps they need to take to improve.
That sounds really useful, especially for companies that are just starting to think about security or those who want to make sure they're on the right track. Can you walk me through those 5 stages?
Certainly. He outlined them as awareness, risk management, capability, integration, and global ecosystem.
Okay.
It's a journey that starts with simply being aware of the need for security and progresses through managing risks, building internal security capabilities, integrating security into all aspects of the business, and finally, considering the global security ecosystem in which an organization operates.
So it's a holistic approach that goes beyond just technical solutions and encompasses a comprehensive security mindset that permeates the entire organization. It's not something you can just achieve overnight.
Right.
It's a process of continuous improvement and adaptation.
You got it. And I think it's a really valuable framework for any organization, regardless of their size or industry. And it actually leads to a thought-provoking question for you. Where would you place your organization on this spectrum of product security maturity?
It's a great question. It really makes you stop and think about your own organization's security posture and how it aligns with these 5 stages. Are we just starting to become aware of security, or are we actively integrating it into every aspect of our operations? It's definitely something for our listeners to reflect on.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder that security is not a destination. It's a journey. We need to constantly be learning, adapting, and improving our security practices.
Now, going back to Jane's time at Nokia, I'm particularly intrigued by his work on developing a secure operating system architecture for their phones. Given the sheer volume of devices they were producing, that must have been an immense undertaking.
You're absolutely right. It was a massive project, and the impact was huge. Remember, this was back in the days before smartphones were commonplace, and Nokia was the dominant player in the mobile phone market.
Hmm.
His work helped to ensure that millions of people could use their phones with confidence, knowing that their data and communications were protected.
And it's not just about the technical aspects of security, right?
Right.
He also played a key role in establishing Nokia's global incident response team.
Yes.
That must have been critical in those early days of mobile internet when new threats and vulnerabilities were emerging all the time.
Absolutely. He led that team for over 10 years, handling security and privacy incidents with incredible expertise and professionalism. He understood that incident response isn't just about fixing technical problems. It's about communicating transparently, learning from mistakes, and continuously improving the organization's security posture.
So it's about being proactive, anticipating potential threats, and having a plan in place to respond effectively when things inevitably go wrong.
Right.
That takes a lot of foresight and leadership.
It certainly does. And it's another area where Gene excelled. He was always thinking ahead, anticipating future challenges, and building systems and processes that would stand the test of time.
It's clear that his time at Nokia was a defining period in his career, and his work there had a lasting impact on the mobile industry and beyond. But his journey didn't stop there. He went on to hold leadership roles at Microsoft and Google, continuing to push the boundaries of security and privacy in the cloud era.
You're absolutely right, and that brings us to another fascinating chapter in his story, his move to Microsoft and his work on securing their cloud platform, Azure.
Okay.
But that's a topic for another part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we left off with Jane making this move to Microsoft. What drew him to the world of cloud computing?
Well, it was around 2012,
Okay.
and cloud computing was really starting to gain momentum. Jane saw the immense potential of the cloud, but also recognized these unique security and privacy challenges it presented. Remember, this was a time when a lot of businesses were still hesitant to trust the cloud with their sensitive data.
That makes sense. It's one thing to secure a device, but it's quite another to secure, like, this vast network of servers and data centers spread across the globe.
Exactly, and that's where Jane's expertise really shone. He was brought in to lead the global product security team for Microsoft's smart devices,
Okay.
and later, their Azure cloud platform. It was a massive responsibility given that Azure was rapidly becoming one of the world's leading cloud platforms.
So he was essentially tasked with building trust in the cloud.
Yeah,
That must have been a daunting challenge.
it was. But he approached it with the same methodical and forward-thinking approach that he had in Nokia.
Yeah.
He knew that security had to be baked into the very fabric of Azure, from the underlying infrastructure to the services and applications running on top of it.
So what were some of the key initiatives he spearheaded at Microsoft?
Well, one of his major accomplishments was managing and executing multiple years of certifications for Azure for global markets.
Right.
We're talking incredibly stringent standards, like the UKG Cloud, UKPASF, UK NHSIG Toolkit, and UK Cyber Essentials PIUS. These certifications provided independent verification that Azure met the highest security and privacy requirements.
That's impressive. I can only imagine the amount of work and coordination that went into achieving those certifications.
It was no small feat. And remember, this was all happening while Azure was growing at an incredible pace.
Yeah.
He had to build security in while keeping up with this rapid pace of innovation.
It's like building a plane while it's already in flight.
Exactly.
So he was focused on both the technical aspects of securing the platform and demonstrating compliance with these global regulations.
Precisely. And he didn't stop there. He also led the development of Microsoft's next-generation privacy program for Azure, shifting from a reactive model to a more proactive approach.
Ah, there's that shift left mindset again.
No.
So how did he apply that to a cloud environment?
Well, he recognized that the traditional approach of conducting these privacy impact assessments, or PIAs, after a product or service is already built, just wasn't efficient or effective in a cloud environment.
Right.
Cloud services are constantly evolving, with new features and updates being released all the time.
So trying to bolt on privacy as an afterthought just wouldn't work. It had to be part of the development process right from the beginning.
Exactly. He implemented a new program that emphasized early engagement with product teams, proactive risk assessments, and continuous monitoring and improvement. This ensured that privacy considerations were baked into the design of Azure services from day one.
That's a great example of how he adapted his shift-left approach to a new context. It
Yeah.
shows a real commitment to continuous learning and improvement.
And it had a real impact.
Yeah.
The new program helped to reduce privacy risks,
Yeah.
improve compliance with global regulations, and build greater trust with Azure customers.
Speaking of trust, we talked earlier about Jan's ability to bridge the gap between technical complexity and practical application. How did that play out in his work at Microsoft?
It was crucial. Remember, cloud computing was still relatively new at the time,
Right.
and many businesses were hesitant to trust a third party with their data. Jane understood that he had to communicate clearly and effectively about security and privacy, not just to technical experts,
Yeah.
but to business leaders and everyday users.
So it was about making security and privacy like understandable and relatable to a non-technical audience.
Exactly. He had this knack for explaining complex technical concepts in a way that everyone could understand. He also emphasized the importance of transparency, being open about security and privacy practices, and communicating clearly about any incidents that occurred.
That's so important in building trust. You can have the most secure systems in the world,
Mm.
but if people don't understand how they work or don't feel like they can trust you with their data, it's all for nothing.
Absolutely. And that's something that Jane truly understood. He was always thinking about that human element of security and privacy.
So he was not only securing the cloud, but also building bridges between the technical world and the rest of us.
Exactly. And his work at Microsoft had a ripple effect throughout the entire industry.
Wow.
He helped to establish best practices, build trust in cloud computing, and really pave the way for the widespread adoption of cloud services that we see today.
It's amazing to think about the impact he's had.
Yeah,
But his journey didn't stop at Microsoft, did it?
it didn't.
He went on to Google, leading privacy for Google Cloud. What drew him to that role?
Well, by that point, Jan was recognized as a global leader in cloud security and privacy.
Yeah.
Google Cloud was rapidly growing, and they were looking for someone with his vision and experience to lead their privacy efforts.
It sounds like a perfect fit.
It was. He was excited by the opportunity to work at a company that was pushing the boundaries of innovation in cloud computing and artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
And he saw it as a chance to make a real difference in the way privacy was handled in this cloud era.
So what were some of his key accomplishments at Google?
One of the first things he did was to spearhead the implementation of strategic privacy certifications like ISO 27701 and the EU Cloud Code of Conduct.
Okay.
These certifications demonstrated Google's commitment to meeting the highest privacy standards.
That's impressive, but I have to admit, I'm not familiar with those certifications. Can you break them down for our listeners who might not be, privacy experts?
Sure. ISO 27701 is an international standard for privacy information management.
Okay.
It's built upon the well-established ISO 27701 standard for information security management and provides a framework for organizations to manage personal data in a way that protects privacy.
Okay.
The EU Cloud Code of Conduct, on the other hand, is a set of self-regulatory rules for cloud service providers operating in the European Union.
Great.
It helps ensure that these providers comply with the EU's strict privacy laws, like the General Data Protection Regulation or GDPR.
So these certifications were a way for Google to demonstrate that they were taking privacy seriously and that they were meeting the highest standards for data protection.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about checking boxes for compliance.
Right.
Jane was truly passionate about building a privacy-first culture at Google Cloud.
Okay.
He understood that privacy wasn't just a legal requirement, it was a fundamental human right.
So it was about embedding privacy into the DNA of Google Cloud.
Precisely. And he didn't just talk the talk, he
Yeah.
walked the walk. He led the redesign of the entire Google Workspace privacy program, shifting from a reactive model to a more proactive approach.
There's that shift left approach again.
Yeah.
It seems like a recurring theme throughout his career.
It is. And it's a testament to his forward-thinking mindset and his ability to adapt to these new challenges.
Yeah.
He understood that in the cloud era, privacy couldn't be an afterthought.
Right.
It had to be built into the design of products and services from the very beginning.
I'm curious to know more about the specifics of how he implemented this shift left approach at Google. Can
Okay.
you give me an example?
Of course. One of the things he did was to create a new role within the Google Workspace engineering teams,
Okay.
the privacy engineer. These engineers were embedded within the product teams and were responsible for ensuring that privacy considerations were addressed at every stage of the development process.
So it was about having dedicated privacy experts working alongside the engineers who were building the products.
Exactly. This helped to ensure that privacy wasn't just a checkbox item on a checklist,
Right.
but was integrated into the very design and architecture of the products.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about bringing those privacy considerations to the forefront rather than treating them as an afterthought.
Precisely. And it was a huge success. The redesigned Google Workspace privacy program became a model for other organizations, demonstrating how to build privacy into the very fabric of cloud services.
It's fascinating to see how he took this concept that he had been championing for years and implemented it at scale within one of the world's largest tech companies. It really shows his leadership and his ability to drive meaningful change.
It certainly does. And it's a reminder that even in a fast-paced, innovation-driven environment like Google, it's possible to prioritize privacy and to make it a core part of the product development process.
We've talked a lot about his work in the corporate world at Nokia, Microsoft, and Google, but I'm also curious about his involvement in industry groups and standards organizations.
Yeah.
We touched on that earlier,
Uh,
but can we delve a little deeper into his contributions in those areas?
Absolutely. Jane's always been a strong advocate for collaboration and industry-wide action.
Okay.
He understands that the challenges we face in security and privacy are too big for any one company to solve alone. We need to work together to share knowledge, develop best practices, and advocate for stronger security and privacy protections.
So it's about raising the bar for the entire industry, not just for individual companies.
Exactly. And he's played a leading role in numerous organizations that are working to do just that.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure. He served as a board member for Global Platform, which develops specifications for secure chip technology used in everything from payment cards to mobile phones.
Right.
He was also vice chairman of SafeCode, which promotes the implementation of robust software assurance methodologies. And he's been actively involved in the Trusted Computing Group, or TCG,
Okay.
which develops standards for trusted computing platforms.
That's an impressive list. And it shows his commitment to making a difference beyond the walls of any one company.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
He's a true believer in the power of collective action to drive positive change in this security and privacy landscape.
And it's not just about the big name organizations, right?
Great.
He's also been actively involved in mentoring and supporting smaller groups and individuals.
Yeah.
He served as an advisory board member for the Oxford University Center for Doctoral Training in Cybersecurity, helping to shape the next generation of security researchers. He was also a founding advisory board member for the Building Security and Maturity Model, or BSIM,
Yeah.
a collaborative effort to improve software security practices across the industry.
His involvement in these initiatives really demonstrates his commitment to fostering a culture of security and privacy that extends beyond the walls of any one company or organization.
Yeah.
It's about building a community of practice where people can share knowledge, learn from each other, and work together to create a more secure and trustworthy digital world.
It's really inspiring to see someone who's achieved so much success in his own career dedicate his time and energy to helping others and to improving the industry as a whole.
It is, and it speaks to his character and his values. He's not just about climbing the corporate ladder.
Right.
He's about making a real and lasting contribution to the world.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, and it's clear that Janne Uusilehto has had an extraordinary career. From his early days in banking to his leadership roles at Nokia, Microsoft, and Google, he's been at the forefront of the security and privacy field for over 2 decades.
He's a true pioneer and a visionary leader, and his work has had a profound impact on the way we think about and approach security and privacy today.
But there's still more to explore.
Yeah. I'm really interested in learning more about his early work as a software developer and animator. It seems like those experiences might have played a role in shaping his approach to security and privacy.
You're absolutely right. Those early experiences were formative, and they provide some really interesting insights into his journey. But that's a story for the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're about to take a little trip back in time to the early days of Jane's career, before the internet as we know it even existed.
Right.
You mentioned that he started out as a software developer and even did some computer animation.
Yeah.
That's a pretty far cry from leading global privacy programs at Google.
You're telling me. It might seem surprising, but I think those early experiences really shaped his approach to security and privacy in some fundamental ways. He wasn't just a techie coding away in isolation.
Right.
He was building things for real people, solving real problems. For example, as an independent software developer, he created tools and applications for small businesses.
He even developed games, including one that was recognized as the best freeware game in Finland in 1990.
Wow, I had no idea. It sounds like he was a bit of a creative whiz back then.
He definitely had a knack for it, and this was in the late 80s and early 90s, remember?
Yeah.
The technology was so different then. It took a lot of ingenuity and resourcefulness
Yeah.
to build software in those days.
Yeah.
And I think those experiences instilled in him this deep understanding of how software works, how it can be used to solve problems, but also how it can be vulnerable to exploitation.
So it wasn't just about the technical skills. It was about understanding the human element of technology, how people interact with it, and how to make it work for them.
Exactly. And that understanding is crucial in security and privacy. It's
Mm.
not just about building these impenetrable systems.
Yeah.
It's about building systems that people can use and
I
trust.
never thought about it that way before, but it makes a lot of sense. So his early work as a software developer really laid the foundation for his later work in security.
I think so, yes. But there's more. He also worked as a computer animator for a while, creating TV commercials and news segments for a cable TV station.
Wait, really? Computer animation? That's so unexpected.
It is, right. But it's another piece of the puzzle. Think about it. Computer animation's all about storytelling.
Yeah.
It's about bringing ideas to life in this visual and engaging way. And that's a skill that's incredibly valuable in security and privacy. It's not enough to just be technically competent.
Right.
You also need to be able to communicate these complex concepts in a way that people can understand and relate to.
That's a great point. It's about making security and privacy come alive, not just keeping them buried in technical jargon.
Exactly. And Jan's always been a master communicator. He
Mm.
can explain complex technical concepts in a really clear and concise way, making them accessible to everyone, not just the experts. I think his background in animation might have played a role in that.
It's amazing to see how all these seemingly disparate experiences came together to shape his career. It's like he was building this unique set of skills and perspectives that would ultimately make him a leader in the security and privacy field.
You're absolutely right. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes the most uh, interesting and successful careers are the ones that don't follow a straight line.
Yeah.
It's about being open to new experiences, learning from different fields, and finding creative ways to connect the dots.
Speaking of connecting the dots, let's circle back to one of the key themes we've been discussing throughout this deep dive, Jane's passion for driving the development and adoption of industry standards. Why is that such a crucial aspect of his work?
Well, he truly believes that standards play a critical role in creating a more secure and trustworthy digital world. They provide a common language, a set of best practices, and a framework for interoperability, making it easier for companies to develop secure products and services,
Yeah.
and for people to use them with confidence.
We've already talked about his leadership in developing the Mobile Trusted Modules standard, but his involvement in standards development goes far beyond that.
Right.
Do you give me another example?
Absolutely. One that comes to mind is his work with Global Platform. He served as a board officer for the organization, which develops specifications for secure chip technology.
Okay.
This technology is used in everything from payment cards to mobile phones, and it's a vital part of securing transactions and protecting sensitive data.
So his work had a direct impact on the security of like everyday transactions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He recognized early on that secure chip technology would be essential for enabling these new mobile services and applications. He even served as Global Platform's Mobile Strategic Director, providing expert advice on how to evolve their specifications to meet the specific needs of the mobile industry.
It sounds like he was constantly thinking ahead, anticipating the future of technology, and working to ensure that security and privacy kept pace with innovation.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway from his career.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just react to the latest threats or vulnerabilities.
Mm.
We need to be proactive, anticipate future challenges, and build systems and processes that'll be resilient in the face of change.
That's a powerful message. It's about building a secure and trustworthy digital future, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Mm.
And that brings us to another aspect of Jan's work that I find incredibly inspiring, his dedication to education and awareness.
Okay.
He doesn't just focus on building secure systems.
Right.
He also wants to empower people to make informed decisions about their own security and privacy.
So it's about sharing his knowledge and experience with others, helping to create a more security-conscious culture.
Exactly. He understands that technology alone can't solve the challenges we face.
Yeah.
We also need to educate people about the risks, empower them to make informed decisions, and create a culture of security and privacy that permeates every level of society.
So how has he put this belief into action?
Well, for one thing, he's been a sought-after speaker at conferences and events around the world. He's also written numerous articles and blog posts on security and privacy topics. But what I find most impressive is his commitment to teaching and mentoring. He's served as a lecturer on mobile security and product security at prestigious universities like Queen's University of Belfast,
Wow.
Oxford University, Trinity College Dublin, and Oulu University in Finland.
Wow, that's amazing. He's literally helping to shape the next generation of security and privacy professionals.
He is, and he's not just teaching them technical skills.
Yeah.
He's instilling in them this deep understanding of the importance of ethics, responsibility, and a user-centric approach to security and privacy.
It sounds like he's leaving a lasting legacy, not just through his technical accomplishments, but also through the people he's inspired and the knowledge he's shared.
You're absolutely right. And that brings us to something I wanted to highlight, something that might seem a bit tangential to his security work, but actually speaks volumes about his character. Did you know that he's been very active in Rotary International?
Oh, yes. I did see that on his LinkedIn profile. He served as president for both the Rotary Club Tampere International and the E-Club of Verkrotary.fi.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm not sure I see the connection to his work in security and privacy.
It might seem like a separate part of his life, but I think it speaks to a deeper set of values. Rotary's all about service above self,
Yeah.
about making a positive impact on the world, and that's what Jane has done throughout his career. He's used his skills and expertise to make the digital world a safer and more trustworthy place for everyone.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's not just about the technology, it's about the people. It's about using our talents to make a difference in the world.
Exactly. And I think that's the most important lesson we can take away from Jane's journey. It's not just about achieving success for ourselves, it's about making a positive impact on others and leaving the world a better place than we found it.
That's a powerful message, and it's one that resonates deeply with me. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of awe and inspiration. Janne Uusilehto's career is a testament to the power of vision, dedication, and a commitment to making a difference.
I couldn't agree more. He's a true role model for anyone who wants to make a positive impact in the world of technology.
Well, thank you for taking us on this incredible journey. It's been a real privilege to learn about Janne Uusilehto's remarkable career and the insights he's gained along the way.
It's been my pleasure. I hope our listeners have found it as insightful and inspiring as I have.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the unseen heroes who work tirelessly behind the scenes to keep our digital world secure and trustworthy. Janne Uusilehto's story is a reminder that we all have a role to play in building a better digital future. So what will your contribution be as